But moving on, in a fresh boost for public sector banks, the government is seeking Parliament's approval to spend 41,000 crore worth of recap bonds in FY19. Now, this comes on the back of news that 4 banks are going to be coming out of PCA. To get more perspective on the same, joining me on the show is Anil Gupta, VP ICRA. Welcome to the show, Anil. Overall, if you could just help us understand, with regards to the move that the RBI, that we are seeing, that the government is seeking the parliamentary nod worth 41,000 crore recap. If you could just help us put these numbers into perspective.
Yeah, good afternoon. Thank you for having me on the show. So, just to have a background, the recapitalization of the public sector bank started under the Indradhanush scheme, where the budgeted recapitalization was 70,000 crores. And subsequently, when the losses and the NPAs of the banking sector started swelling up, the government announced another recapitalization of 2.11 lakh crores in October 2018. Now, out of 2.11 lakh crores, 1.35 lakh crores was the recapitalization bonds, and 20,000 crores was the leftover from the Indradhanush scheme. Balance 58,000 crores was required to be raised by the banks through market raising, like they could have issued QIPs and all, and they were required to raise around 58,000 crores from the market. Now, the overall capitalization under the recap bonds and the Indradhanush, that remains at 1.55 lakh crores, which has been committed by the government, and 90,000 crores of this was infused in financial year 18. Balance 65,000 crores was budgeted capital for financial year 19. However, the banks were not able to raise the capital which they were required to raise from the market, because of which the capital infusion program or the recapitalization program went short. Now, with this 41,000 crores which is being announced, definitely it is positive to bridge the gap between the announced recapitalization and the actual capital which will flow into the banks. So overall, it's a positive move. It will definitely support some banks in terms of their capital ratios and credit growth.
Right. So, Anil, do you think that this extra 41,000 crores will completely take care of the growth as well as the provisioning requirements?
No, definitely this is not going to take care of the entire provisioning requirement as well as the growth for all the banks, because as per our estimates, the capital requirements are much higher. So just to put the things into perspective, we are not including IDBI Bank in all our calculations, because now that will be taken care of by the LIC. But with the broadly, if you talk about only the PCA banks, right? So they had net NPAs of around 1.63 lakh crores. And overall public sector banks, as on September 2018, the net NPAs were around 4.1 lakh crores. So overall level of net NPAs is quite high, and the provision cover was only 53%. So there will be provisioning which will be coming on the NPAs, and if the PCA banks were to reduce their net NPAs below 6%, then the capital requirement is around 65,000 crores. So definitely this is not sufficient for all the banks, but definitely this is expected to be given selectively to few banks which the government feels can be taken out of PCA with the lower capital requirements.
So according to you, which are the banks that could benefit and come out of PCA? Because our exclusive sources are suggesting that on number one, the first one that could come out is Bank of India. But which are the top 3 to 4 banks that you think could be benefiting and coming out?
Yeah, so if we have to do a rank ordering in terms of the NPA percentage, Bank of India is the first with net NPAs close to around 7%. Allahabad Bank is second, but Allahabad Bank has made a significant quantum of losses during the current financial year. So maybe it may be back on the list, but Bank of India, then the Oriental Bank of Commerce, Corporation Bank and Bank of Maharashtra, these are 4 possible list of the banks which can come out of the PCA. Allahabad Bank, yes, it fares good on net NPAs, but in terms of their return on assets, that has been quite weak. Their losses have been quite high even in the current financial year.
Right. So, Anil, with the 4 banks that you mentioned, how much do you think they will need individually to come out of PCA?
Yeah, so Bank of India, Oriental Bank of Commerce and the Corporation Bank, the capital requirement individually should be around 4,500 to 6,000 crores. So collectively these banks can take somewhere around 15 to 18,000 crores. Additionally, Bank of Maharashtra should also require around 3 to 4,000 crores. So in total these four banks can require around 20,000 crores to exit the PCA.
Right. And overall, do you think it is going to be difficult for all these banks to go ahead and raise any further capital also?
So I think with this capital which is going to be infused into these few banks selectively, what can happen is their net NPAs can go down, because of which their further provisioning in the future is expected to reduce, which will improve their earnings. And definitely an external investor will not put in capital to offset the losses. Rather, they will look at the earnings and the earnings growth. So with this net NPAs coming down and capital ratios improving, definitely the earning visibility will improve and they can support the credit growth, which can in turn support their earning growth. So definitely the capital raising ability of the banks when they come out of PCA will improve, and they should be able to raise capital in FY20.
Right, and very lastly, Anil, we've just picked up information from government sources which says that SBI, Allahabad Bank and PNB have sought approval to raise funds via bonds and QIP, and SBI is unlikely to get any additional funds, whereas PNB will be meeting it via sale of non-core assets, and they are not looking to infuse more funds in IDBI Bank right now. Any comments on that front?
So, coming to the PNB first, so PNB has non-core assets which are like largely PNB Housing Finance. So they have been looking at divestment of that investment. So if it goes through, definitely it will be positive. But in case it does not go through, because it is still weak on capital ratios, despite a capital infusion of almost 8,000 crores in the current financial year from GOI, it will require additional capital if it is not able to divest the non-core assets. SBI continues to remain strong on the capital ratios, and recently they have also done Tier 1 bond, and their ability to raise capital from markets in terms of Tier 1 bonds or the equity continues to remain good. So if government gives capital, definitely it will be a growth capital and it will be positive. And for Bank of Baroda also, the capital position in terms of it remains strong to pursue growth, and any additional capital will be a bonus for the banks.
Right. All right, Anil. Pleasure speaking to you, and thank you for sharing your views as well. So that's with regards to where the banking segment as a whole is concerned. But let's quickly